Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So this video is going to be a slightly more serious topic. I actually have a written accompaniment to this, which is in article form on my blog, that I will link below. Of course, you can read it if you want to, but I thought that I would just make a video as well because I know that everyone prefers kind of consuming information in different formats, right? So some people prefer the blog, some people just like to watch a video, etc, etc. So we are going to talk about modern day slavery in nail bars. So why nail bars, right? Like that seems like such a strange kind of place for slavery to be occurring. A lot of people think that slavery means kind of sex slaves in massage parlours and things like that. But actually nail salons are a great way of the traffickers or slave owners hiding their victims in plain sight. I mean, think about it. So many people go to nail bars, and if the technician doesn't really speak English or doesn't seem willing to engage, you don't think about it, right? You leave and you don't have a second thought. Many people, when they go to get their manicures, they're not thinking, is this person a slave, right? Because why would you? And also cash only nail bars, which we will look into in more detail later, they are great fronts for other types of organised crime. So often the staff, if they're female in these salons, are actually forced to work as sex workers or prostitutes after hours. And also the Vietnamese gangs that own a lot of these bars are also responsible for a lot of cannabis farms in the UK, and they need a kind of legitimate business which, you know, they can launder money through. So that's another reason. And okay, so a lot of people in Vietnam, they will want to come to the UK and they will willingly pay their traffickers to get them over here, right? They don't have documents or anything like that. They just pay the people smugglers. So they know that they're paying to come here illegally. And this is what confuses some people, because when people think about human trafficking, they think of kidnap, right? And they think of people being snatched off the street. And actually, no, a lot of the time people enter into the transportation element willingly, and they actually do pay the traffickers, but then it quickly becomes, you know, not as it seems or not as it was agreed. Oftentimes they get to England and maybe they can't claim asylum, or maybe they struggle getting a job because they don't speak English, or their trafficker says, look, do you know what? I can set you up with someone who owns a nail bar. You can have a job there. Fantastic. Okay, so this is the way that it usually happens, okay? And once they're kind of in this trap, it's very difficult to get out. A lot of times, because they are illegal immigrants and they don't have the documents, they're scared of going to the authorities, and their traffickers kind of hold this over their heads. They say, you can't tell on us because you'll get put in a detention centre for years, okay? It's not just as simple as someone getting deported if they're found to be in the country illegally. They get thrown into these detention centres, which are really hostile environments, and they can sit there for years, okay? So their trafficker holds that over their head. Another thing that they're threatened with is violence. Maybe their families are threatened with violence, or they're just feeling intimidated because they can't speak the language, they don't know where they are, they don't know where the nearest police station is, they don't know that there are helplines and organisations available to help them out of their situation. They don't know, they're just kind of stuck. And a lot of people will probably think, well, what do you mean slaves in nail bars, right? What does it mean, you know? How this manifests itself, okay, is the people work and maybe they don't get days off, okay? So they work 30 days straight with no break, or maybe they're not paid. Maybe they are paid, but it's £1 or £2 an hour, which is obviously well under the minimum wage. Actually, in the UK, we basically never prosecute anybody for not paying their staff minimum wage. It just doesn't happen. Yes, the law is there on paper, but it doesn't happen in practice, which is a big problem. This kind of wage exploitation is how slavery, modern day slavery in the UK often manifests, right? So these people are not paid, or they're paid very, very little. And what the traffickers or the owners say to them is, well, I brought you here, I sorted out your visa, so now you owe me £20,000. And of course, that's not what it costs to get to the UK, but that's what they're told that it costs. So it's a kind of bonded labour, which means they're working to pay off this debt to their traffickers, which of course it's a debt that doesn't really exist, but what their trafficker holds over their heads anyway. So they work long hours without breaks. I mentioned before, a lot of them are forced to do sex work after that. Some of the guys may be forced to cultivate, I don't know if that's the right word, but work in the cannabis farms. And often they are housed in accommodation that's either on the premises, like above the salon, or they're all picked up from work every day and taken to a house where they all live together. And often 6, 7 or 8 people will share a bedroom. Maybe there's no hot water, you know, it's filthy, it's dangerous. These are the kind of conditions that modern day slaves in the UK are forced to live in. And again, they can't do anything about it because they just don't know what to do. So it's a really tricky situation for them to be in. They do often feel helpless. And of course, these organised gangs, they're scary. You know, human traffickers, they don't just make people work in nail bars. Okay, these are people that rape. These are people that kill. These are people that deal in drugs, arms, girls. You know, these are dangerous people who are often very powerful, not afraid of the law. And so it's that kind of fear that often keeps them in this bondage, as much as any real physical abuse that's happening. Okay, so if you suspect that people in your local nail salon are being trafficked, what can you do and what are the signs? Okay, so I'm going to read out the bullet pointed list from my article of the signs that, you know, maybe your nail salon is not all above board. If you do want to see this list, it's on my blog. Okay, so I will link it. So first I'm going to talk about their employees themselves, okay, not just the business as a whole. So are they unwilling to make eye contact and engage with you? Do they seem kind of very introverted, withdrawn, and they just look down and get the job done? That's a sign that obviously they're not enjoying their work, but also they may be fearful and depressed as well. Number 2, do they seem tense or even frightened, especially of like a manager type figure or someone like that? Do they often like look up in fear? You know, do you just get the vibes that there's more to this than meets the eye? Do they appear a lot younger than you would expect? So many of these victims are teenage boys, actually. I know you would expect that it happens primarily to girls, but the primary victims are teenage boys. So maybe they're 16 or 17, and that's just too young. You know, it's too young to have finished college, completed your qualifications, and come to the UK to make a new life. You know, it's just not how it works, is it? Do they appear not to speak English? Now, of course, many migrants do not speak English, so this sign alone, in fact, anything on this list alone, does not mean anything, okay? Just because they don't speak English, it doesn't mean that they've been trafficked. However, if they can't speak English, it does make them more vulnerable, so that is something that you need to be mindful of. Is their appearance unkempt and neglected? Do they always wear the same clothes or have personal hygiene issues? I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. It means that they don't have money or access to clothing and, you know, basic facilities to wash and things like that. Does the manager seem domineering and overly watchful of their employees? Now, obviously in a regular salon, the manager isn't going to be looming over their shoulders, okay, and lurking and watching everything they do like a hawk, and they're not going to seem very, very domineering. So again, that's just another warning sign. Is there a lack of conversation between staff, and does the atmosphere seem off? So if you're worried because they don't speak very much English, then this can be a big giveaway. So if they don't speak English, maybe they won't be speaking to the British customers, but they will be laughing and joking and speaking to each other, right? Which kind of would say to me that they're happy in their job. They just can't communicate with me. Whereas if they don't speak to each other, then that is, again, something that I would be worried about. Obviously, salons are fun places. Hairdressers are the happiest, chattiest people in the world. And it's the same with nail technicians, okay? If the atmosphere seems very strained and tense, then that's definitely a warning sign. Do they allow their manager to speak for them when addressed directly? Again, this is very weird. This is not how normal interaction between a customer and their nail technician would work. If the manager is kind of talking over them or talking for them, that's not normal and it's not right. Do they take breaks? Again, you might not be there long enough to maybe see, but if there is a long waiting time and you're in there for a while, just take note. Does anyone go outside, you know, for a cigarette or for a break or anything like that? Just keep it in mind. Do they seem properly trained? Do they seem as though they've got their qualifications and they can do it properly, and all the stuff that they're using is legit and above board? Or does it seem like a cheap, rushed, kind of hat-handed job? You know, bear that in mind. And now onto the business. Is it a cash only business? Lots of these businesses are cash only because, as I mentioned before, they are laundering money. So it's quite strange for a business in the UK in 2019 not to be able to take card. Okay, that's very, very strange. And it might not mean that the people are slaves, but it's definitely funny, you know, it's definitely means something's kind of amiss. Are there living quarters upstairs? Is there a high turnover of staff? This might mean that they're being moved across the country to keep them disorientated, to keep them vulnerable, to keep them isolated. And it also means that people wouldn't be suspicious because, you know, if someone's getting close with their favourite nail technician, then there's a chance that that technician is going to tell the person, right, of their plight. So by keeping them moving, it stops that from happening. Does the pricing seem too good to be true? So, okay, if you're paying someone minimum wage and they spend an hour and a half on your nails, and then you add up all of the acrylic and the nail polish and all of the equipment and stuff, and then you factor in kind of the electricity in the shop and all the rest of it, manager's wages, and remember the owner still has to make a profit. If you're paying 15 or 16 quid for a full set of nails, that just doesn't add up, does it? So if the prices seem really too good to be true, they probably are. Someone's not getting paid somewhere. Okay, and lastly, does the manager take all the cash? Are the technicians scared or forbidden to take the cash from you? Again, that's not normal. A normal business wouldn't operate like that. Okay, so these are some signs to look out for. If you see more than one of these signs and you go back, you know, every couple of weeks and it never seems to get better, then that's when you should do something, of course. So if you do suspect that your nail technician is a victim of human trafficking, do not ask probing questions to them or make a scene. This will just do more harm than good. This is never a good idea, and this could put that person at risk of either violence or just being moved to another part of the country, and then they're lost and they're never going to be saved. So what you should do is inform the relevant authorities. Okay, so you can call the Modern Slavery Helpline. The number is 08000 121 700, or there's a form that you can fill in online if for whatever reason you don't like speaking to people on the phone. I know I don't. So just Google Modern Slavery Helpline. You can contact the police. They're getting better and better trained now in how to deal with this, so that could be an option. Personally, it would be my last choice, okay, out of the options I'm going to give you. You can also contact the Gangmasters and Labour Abuse Authority on 0800 432 0804. Again, I'll put all these numbers in the description. Or you can contact Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. Or you can contact Anti-Slavery International on their website, okay? So these are all organisations that are specialised in knowing and recognising the signs and dealing with this and helping the victims, okay? So if you are worried, just give them a call, right? It's going to take like 5 minutes out of your day and it really might do some good. So yeah, if you like this video, then don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know what other topics you want me to talk about, and I'm definitely going to record one about car wash, like modern day slavery and car washes, because that's another huge problem. But yeah, see you guys later.